In the dense jungles of Vietnam, 1968, the air was thick with humidity and tension. The distant rumble of artillery was a constant reminder of the war that had engulfed this foreign land. For Sergeant David Mac McAllister of the U.S. Marine Corps, each day was a battle not just against the enemy, but against the very environment that seemed determined to consume him and his men. Mac had been in Vietnam for nearly a year, leading a platoon of young Marines through some of the most treacherous terrains imaginable. The mission was often unclear, the objective shifting like the monsoon rains. Yet, amidst the chaos, Mac had forged a bond with his men, a brotherhood born from shared hardship and the primal instinct to survive. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun beat down mercilessly, Mac's platoon received orders to secure a village suspected of harboring Viet Cong fighters. Intelligence was sparse, but the directive was clear. Proceed with caution, but proceed swiftly. As they approached the village, a sense of unease settled over the men. The usual sounds of rural life were absent. No children playing, no livestock, only an eerie silence. Mac signaled for his men to spread out and advance slowly. Corporal Jameson, the platoon's radio man, whispered, "Sarge, something doesn't feel right." Mac nodded, his instincts screaming that they were walking into a trap. But orders were orders. "Stay sharp, everyone," he murmured. As they entered the village, the silence was shattered by the crack of gunfire. Ambush. The Viet Cong emerged from hidden tunnels and foliage, unleashing a hail of bullets. Mac's training kicked in. "Take cover. Return fire," he bellowed. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Bullets whizzed past, and the air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Mac saw Private First Class Ramirez, a young recruit barely out of high school, frozen in fear, exposed to enemy fire. Without hesitation, Mac sprinted towards Ramirez, tackling him to the ground just as a bullet grazed his own shoulder. Ignoring the pain, he dragged Ramirez behind a dilapidated wall. "Stay with me, kid," he urged, pressing a bandage to his bleeding shoulder. Hours felt like days as the firefight raged on. The Marines, though outnumbered, held their ground, their training and camaraderie proving stronger than the enemy's surprise attack. As dusk approached, the Viet Cong began to retreat, melting back into the jungle's shadows. The cost was high. Several of Mac's men were wounded, and 2 had made the ultimate sacrifice. The village, once a potential threat, was now a somber graveyard of shattered lives and dreams. As night fell, the platoon set up a perimeter, tending to the wounded and mourning their fallen brothers. Mac sat apart from the group, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. He replayed the day's events in his mind, questioning every decision, every order. Jameson approached, offering a canteen. "You did all you could, Sarge." Mac took a swig, the water doing little to wash away the bitterness. "Did I? 2 good men are dead. Kids, really. How do I tell their families?" Jameson sighed, looking out into the darkness. "War isn't fair. We all know the risks, but we'd follow you anywhere, Mac. You're the reason most of us are still breathing." The words offered little solace, but Mac nodded in appreciation. Leadership was a lonely burden, one that demanded decisions with life and death consequences. As the jungle's nocturnal symphony played around them, Mac thought of home. He pictured the rolling hills of Kentucky, the laughter of his younger sister, the embrace of his mother. He wondered if he'd ever see them again, if he'd ever find peace after witnessing so much destruction. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. The platoon faced numerous battles, each leaving its mark on their bodies and souls. Mac became a legend among his men, a leader who led from the front, who cared deeply for each of them. But war has a way of eroding even the strongest foundations. The constant loss, the unending violence, began to chip away at Mac's resolve. He found solace in letters from home, in the rare moments of laughter shared with his men, but the shadows of war loomed large. One fateful day, during a routine patrol, Mac's platoon walked into a minefield. The explosion was deafening. Mac was thrown to the ground, his vision blurred, ears ringing. Pain seared through his leg. Shrapnel had torn through flesh and bone. Through sheer willpower, he barked orders, directing his men to safety, ensuring the wounded were cared for. Only after everyone else was secure did he allow himself to be evacuated. The medevac helicopter ride was a blur of pain and fading consciousness. Mac was transported to a field hospital, where surgeons worked tirelessly to save his leg. Infection set in, and the prognosis was grim. As he lay in the sterile confines of the hospital tent, Mac grappled with a new enemy: helplessness. The warrior who had faced death countless times was now immobilized, dependent on others. Days turned into weeks. The war raged on without him. His platoon received a new leader, and Mac was left to confront his future. The leg was saved, but the damage was severe. He would walk again, but his days on the front lines were over. Returning home was bittersweet. The rolling hills of Kentucky were as he remembered, but he was not the same man who had left. The scars of war, both seen and unseen, were ever present. Mac tried to reintegrate into civilian life, but the memories haunted him. The sound of fireworks sent him diving for cover. The sight of young men in uniform brought tears to his eyes. He sought solace in the company of fellow veterans, men who understood the horrors he had witnessed. Together, they shared stories, laughed, and cried, finding comfort in their shared experiences. Mac dedicated himself to helping other veterans, using his pain as a bridge to connect with those struggling to adjust. He became a mentor, a beacon of hope for those lost in the aftermath of war. Years passed, and the jungles of Vietnam became distant memories. But the lessons learned, the bonds forged, remained etched in Mac's soul. He visited the graves of his fallen comrades, whispering promises to never forget their sacrifice. He lived his life in honor of them, cherishing each moment, each breath. Sergeant David "Mac" McAllister had faced the crucible of war and emerged tempered, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. His story was one of courage, loss, and redemption, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and humanity endure.